There you go. It's recording, sweetheart. What's today's date?
Today is December the 1st, 2023, and it is Friday evening. And I came across some papers that I wanted to read to Jerry so that he could have the correct information in front of him when he's making his videos, because some of this information is incorrect. And I'm going to start with, right now, what we're doing is we're working with comments that the mayor of Pittston has made, Michael Lombardo. And I want to correct him on his misinformation. And I'm going to start with this paper right here. This paper right here lists the burgesses of the borough of Pittston. Pittston in 1853 to 1894 was a borough. It was not a city. This is a list of the burgesses. A burgess served as chief executive during the period Pittston was incorporated as a borough from April of 1853 to December of 1894. Now, when you look at this with the burgesses, this is the first one that was in the borough of Pittston. April 30th, 1853 to 1854. It goes on to list all of the burgesses that had been in the city of Pittston. In the borough of Pittston. They were called burgesses at the time, and it was a borough. It was not a city. The last burgess on here is my great-great-grandfather, Thomas Maloney, 1894 to 1896. Then they decided to become a city of Pittston. City of Pittston, 1894 is the date, with the list of the mayors. The mayor serves as chief executive since Pittston was incorporated as a city in December of 1894. That's when Pittston became a city. The very first mayor is also the last burgess, my great-great-grandfather, Thomas Maloney.
No kidding.
And he served 1894 to 1898.
No kidding.
He was the very first mayor of the city of Pittston, and he was the very last burgess of the borough of Pittston.
Wow. That's pretty impressive, sweetheart.
Okay.
And you're the only survivor that can tell the story about him, I bet.
Well, the rest of my family doesn't know anything about that. Now,
so it's Maloney. How
Thomas Maloney.
Yeah, right there.
Right. Now, my grandmother Black, her name was Catherine Melvin
Right.
Black. But her mother's name was Catherine Maloney. And this is my grandmother's mother's father.
Oh, my God.
That's his father,
Yeah.
Thomas Maloney. And he had my grandmother's mother, Catherine Maloney. Now, that is a little bit of history that I wanted to show you. The next bit of history that I wanted to show you, where the mayor is talking against Dwayne. Now, one of these days, I will read the whole thing, because there's a lot of misinformation in this that the mayor posted online that is untrue. And he called Dwayne out for not telling the truth. If you want me to read this entire thing here,
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
can.
read it.
What if Michael comes?
Don't worry about it.
All right. People often ask me, this is what he responded to Dwayne after he saw the video that Dwayne and you posted online.
Right. And it's the truth, the video we put
The
up.
video is the truth. But here's what he wrote back, because he was on March 21st. The video was put online. Jerry and Dwayne put a post up on Facebook or YouTube. I'm not sure what it was.
Facebook. It was the Facebook
Facebook Messenger,
No, their community page.
their community
Pittston.
page.
Yeah.
They posted a video of the things that were happening to me.
Yeah, and you know.
I was not aware that they were taking pictures of me. I was not aware that they were posting anything. This was as much of a surprise to me as it was to the mayor.
Surprise.
But I wasn't aware of it. I thought I was talking to Jerry or Dwayne privately. I didn't know I was being recorded. But when they put the video up online to show the pain and suffering that I was going through and what I have been through, and I truly believe in my heart that the code enforcement officer of Pittston, Harry Smith, caused most of my pain and suffering. But the mayor is the mayor of Pittston. So if he didn't do anything to prevent Harry Smith from what he was doing to me, then he's just as much at fault. Now, the story begins because many years ago, I think it was around 2017 or 2019, I can actually look up the date, but right now I don't know the date in my mind. Someone called me on the phone. Later I found out it was a developer of a man that had a building down the street that he was remodeling in order to make it a mixed-use building, like with office space or apartments or whatever. He asked me if I would be interested in selling my property, and I told him no. And he said, well, we're going to be ripping down all those properties there. We're buying up the properties, all of them, those row homes. And he said, I'll give you $10,000 for your property. And I said, absolutely not. To me, that is an insult. It's a slap in the face. I pay more than that in taxes on this property. And he said to me, and I quote, he said, fine. If you don't want to deal with me, then you can deal with my friend, the code enforcement officer. And a week to the day that I talked to him on the telephone, I get a letter in the mail from Harry Smith telling me that I have to appear in magistrate court, that he, as the code enforcement officer, was fining me for several things. So, because I refused to sell my property to them, they decided that they were coming after me, and they were going to go after me, and they were going to go after me nonstop. And to this day, I'm still fighting them in court. So once this paper, once the video went up online, which was March 20th of 2022. Was it 22, Jerry, or 23? It was March 20th of 2023. This year, they put the video online.
I did.
And then...
And Dwayne. Well, I did put the video up. Dwayne didn't know anything about it, or you.
And that went up on March the 20th onto the Pittston's community page. And people were responding and making very negative comments without having two sides to the story. There's always two sides to a story. Now, unfortunately, some of the facts in the story that Jerry and Dwayne put up, which is Jerry's friend, some of the facts that they put up were incorrect. And then the mayor responded the very next day on March 21st. He wrote back onto that community page this comment, which I was about to read. And it says, people often ask me how and why the city of Pittston has made such progress. Good elected officials who care about their community and understand the issues. Meet Duryier's Civil Service Commission member, Dwayne Hollister. His Facebook page is abundant with Jesus and God, but he cares not about the truth. See below. City takes elders home, causing her a heart attack. is the most flagrant distortion of the truth. In fact, in an egregious lie, the home he references is blighted structure that has not been occupied since the early 1990s. This right here, these statements right here are incorrect. Dwayne put on about me having the heart attack. I personally believe that because of the stress and pressure that the city had put on me and the code enforcement officer had me under constant stress, I personally, my opinion, that they caused my heart attack. And I did say that to Dwayne. And Dwayne accused them of it. It's my opinion. Because I had a heart attack and I ended up having to be rushed down to Philadelphia to have open heart surgery. In addition to my other health problems that I had had. When he says that it's a distortion of the truth, it's not. The mayor also stated that the home in reference is a blighted structure that has not been occupied since the early 1990s. He's incorrect on that. That home was occupied, and all my things are still in that home. The only reason I have not been in my own home is because when I fell and broke my leg, the doctors had told me that I would never walk again, that I would have to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life, and if anything, I could walk with a walker. And in my home, the bathroom and the bedrooms are upstairs. I could not go up and down the steps. So I was working for Jerry, and his home is all on one floor. So I came in here because I have no steps that I have to climb. And for him to say the early 90s, he's absolutely wrong. Because we didn't get married until 99. So at the late 90s and into the 2000s, I was in my own home. Even though I was married. He said, I put this statement in quotes because that was stated yesterday in the court by the owner. That is a blatant lie. When I was in court the day that he's talking about, I never got to say one word. When they called my name, my lawyer answered. Not me, my lawyer. And he asked the judge for a continuance, which the judge granted. There was no other conversation in that courtroom. So whoever made that statement to the mayor lied to him. So if he's misinformed, he's putting it in writing, and he's incorrect. The structure is filled with garbage and has an excess of $15,000 of code enforcement fines levied against it and its ownership. That is partially true. I do have over $16,000 in fines by the code enforcement officer. They were holding hearings behind my back, which I was never notified for. When I wasn't notified of them, they held the hearings without my presence and found me guilty and fined me. There were some hearings where I was charged with 7 different fines. And therefore, when he said that the home is filled with garbage, that is a lie. That is my home that myself and my children grew up in. That home has furnishings in it. That home has my appliances in it. That home has, when I bought the home, I put a brand new furnace in it. There's 2 water heaters in there already. It's 5 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, living room, dining room, kitchen, a basement that I have storage things in there, that I've stored things in the basement and the attic. Because when my grandparents died, I even took some of their things, their precious things that they had collected. There's antiques in that home. There's collectible items in there. There's heirlooms in there. And for him to say garbage, that is a total lie. And I know where he got that from. Because when the code enforcement officer was fining me all the fines that he was fining me when I did get to the hearings that I was notified about, the magistrate was gracious enough to give me a payment plan. And I was paying on it. But every time Harry Smith turned around and decided he was going to fine me for something else, he was picking on me and looking for reasons to find fault just so he could have my property for his friend to make my property into a parking lot. That's what they wanted. And his friend, the developer, had approached me at one time and told me that if I didn't sell my home, that they had two plans, Plan A and Plan B. That if they used Plan A, my home would be torn down with the rest of them. If they used Plan B, they would work around my home. The developer told me that himself. On here, let me go on with his comments on here. I'm just breaking it down sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph to correct that was never corrected. Okay. The city negotiated in good faith to pay a certified appraisal value and even waive fines in order to be fair. I'd like to know where that came from, because nobody ever told me that they were going to waive the fines. My lawyer, at this last hearing this year, mentioned to me that it's possible that they will drop the fines against me if I give them my home. And my hearing is not until December 18th of this month in 2023. They said that they negotiated with the property owner in good faith. Nobody ever offered me anything. All they did was fine me and pull me into magistrate court. When the developer saw me down at my home, at my property, cleaning out the property, or trying to clean out some things, because the code enforcement officer had me so upset, I didn't know what was going to happen. And my sister said to me that they could put a lock on my door and that I wouldn't even be able to get my things out. So my sister and my brother-in-law came up from North Carolina to help me get some things out of my home, because they know that I couldn't go up and down steps, and they agreed to help me because I had nobody to help me. The city didn't offer to help me. The city didn't offer to pay for another place for me to store my items. Bottom line, when they came up, it was in July of 2019. And when they came up in July of 2019, I didn't have any utilities on in the home because I wasn't living there. And it was a heat wave. My brother-in-law that was trying to help me, he would divide each room in the house and say, Barbara, do you want these items? Like, what? They'd show me the things, or they'd show me whatever it was, and they'd say, is this for sale? Do you want to throw this out? Is there somebody you want to give this to? Is there an organization you want to give it to? Or do you want to keep it? So he divided every one of my room into forts. And if it was to be sold, it went into one corner of the room. If it was to be given to somebody, it was in another corner of the room. If I was saving it, that was another corner of the room. And as he was going through all the boxes from when I moved into the home of things that were in boxes, My brother-in-law would open up the box, take everything out, and he was throwing the box in the corner, the boxes in the corner of the home. Unfortunately, since it was a heat wave, my brother-in-law took the curtain off the window because there was no air in the place, no air conditioning, no fans for electricity. And when he took the curtain off, he ripped the curtain off the window to open up the window to get air. And that was the corner that my brother-in-law was throwing the empty boxes in as he was taking things out of them. Unfortunately, when my brother-in-law left and my sister, they had to go back to North Carolina, I wasn't aware that the windows upstairs were open or that the shade was off the windows. And the code enforcement officer came and took pictures of my window with the boxes in front of it and said my house was filled with garbage, which was a total lie. He didn't ask me why those boxes were there. He didn't ask me anything about what was going on. They just automatically judged me without even asking me my side of the story or asking me why those boxes were there. So I'd like to know where this good faith was when that was happening to me. Okay, let me continue reading on here. Oh, they paid for a certified appraisal value and even said that they were going to waive the fines. First of all, they said they were appraising the property. I didn't ask them to appraise the property. They said they were going to do it for their benefits, to see what the property was worth, so that they could pay me just compensation when they stole my property from me. They were the ones that had the appraisal done, not me. And I didn't ask them either. They said the property owner negotiated in bad faith and at one point asked the developer to pay her cash to avoid taxes and keep the amount from her boyfriend, Jerry Schock. That is a blatant lie. All of that statement is a lie. They never negotiated anything with me. The city never once approached me and offered me anything. The proprietor negotiated in bad faith. How could I negotiate in bad faith if I was never approached? And at one point, asked the developer to pay her cash to avoid taxes. That's a lie. Oh, and to keep it from my boyfriend. Well, I got news for you, Mayor Lombardo. He's not my boyfriend. He's been my husband for 28 years. He said he can easily produce a sworn affidavit from a previous developer affirming this fact. Well, I want to see that statement, because if there is one, it's a lie. If somebody wrote down something like that, then shame on them. Because I never told anybody that I was doing it to avoid taxes. I did not want to sell my property in the first place. And furthermore, my husband was aware of all of it. Because anytime somebody called me on the phone to ask me a question or ask me if I wanted to sell, I have caller ID. I have voicemail. We have one telephone. The telephone is for the business as well as the home. It's one line. And yes, there's 3 telephones. One for a bedroom, one for a kitchen, and one for downstairs in the business. And there was no way that he wouldn't know what was going on. Because furthermore, the telephone is on speaker at all times. Because if my husband is down in the shop and he calls to me, he'll pick up the phone and yell to me through the phone so that I can hear him over the telephone speaker. And if I'm on the phone, he can hear me. So that if I say to him, Jerry, pick up the phone, it's a customer. He can pick up the phone because he hears my voice. So that is a lie right there. And to say he has a sworn statement, whoever made that statement is a liar. Then he says on here, I can easily produce the sworn affidavit from a previous developer affirming this fact. Shame on you, Mr. Hollister, who is Dwayne Hollister, that he's my husband's friend, that he and my husband were the ones that created the video and put it on the Facebook page. I hope you can take more pride in your hometown of Blurry, where you took an oath to serve. Now he's attacking my husband's friend because he didn't like something that he saw in the video. Don't fret your lie confession. I'm sure it will require an Our Father or two, and Easter is a great time to cleanse your soul. Well, my husband's friend also is a minister. He has a license for, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but Dwayne knows that he has a license to be able, if he wanted to start a church, he could do that. Regarding the overarching issue of blight in the city of Pittston, when I was first elected to the mayor's office in 1998, I made a promise to fix our city, and blight and code compliance was and continues to be the issue. So, Mr. Hollister, as you spew the lies and unfounded accusations, who's spewing the lies? Not Dwayne. Dwayne was telling the truth. The mayor has put this in writing, and these are lies. You spew the lies and unfounded accusations of causing a heart attack. Let me remind you of your truth, and that I was reminded of this past week and every year, the 30 years since March 15th, 1993, when my brother John and Lenny Insulaco lost their lives fighting a fire whose origin was faulty wiring. See the fire marshal report. Yes, I am aware he wants to play the martyr card right now. And the reason that he's doing that is to get sympathy when he's saying and doing this about me. His brother John, I actually saw him the day that he died. And he waved to me because it was the blizzard of 93. And as he went around the corner in the car, I was there and I waved to him and he waved back to me. And I scolded John because as it was slippery when he went around the corner and he was going down to the firehouse because there was a call in the afternoon that day. And I went, John, slow down so you don't get hurt. Because as he came around the corner, his car fishtailed. And he just put his arm out the window and waved to me. I like John very much. When my husband died, John was there, and he took my son under his wing, he and his brother Francis, that they call Guppy. And they would take my son to the ball games. They would take him for ice cream. They would take him out to eat. They let him ride in the fire trucks with his Dalmatian for parades. They were very good to my son, fixing his bicycle tires. Because we lived on a corner just right down the street from the firehouse. And when the fire gun would go off, my son would go down there and he would sit at the firehouse with them even on the bench and talk with them. That I would tell my son, and when I would go by at the firehouse, I would say to the fireman, don't let my son pester you. You know, if he's bothering you, just chase him. And every one of them would tell me, Robbie's no problem. He doesn't cause the problem at all. He's fine. So, there's so many stories I can tell you about how close the Lombardo family and we were. Because his father, Michael Lombardo's father, was our doctor for 5 generations. He was the family doctor on my grandmother Black's side of the family. He was my grandmother Black and my grandfather Black's doctor. He was my grandfather Palem and my grandmother Palem's on my father's side of the family doctor. And then he became our doctor. His father came to the house and saved my father's life in the middle of the night when he first became a doctor and my father had a heart attack. He was actually there at our home before the ambulance even got there. And as they were taking my father to the hospital in an ambulance, the ambulance broke down, got a flat tire. And they were right at the viaduct there on River Road, and they could see the hospital, and they tried to ride it. But it was too bumpy. And the doctor got out of his own car and got into the ambulance and was taking care of my father while they waited for another ambulance to get there. We loved Dr. Lombardo, every one of us. My parents' doctor. He was mine and my husband's doctor and my children. And as my children had children, he was their doctor too. And ironically, my mother was one of his last patients. As my mother was leaving his office, there was one person left in the waiting room when she was leaving. And he had told my mother, she had an 11:30, I think it was, appointment. And he had told my mother that he likes to get home about noon to be with Mary. And I loved Mary. I sent Mary flowers to her home. Mary even called me at nighttime and we would talk on the phone. She was very good to me and I loved her very much. His mother and father, I swear by them. And then the other thing was, when my mother left the doctor's office and that one person was left in the waiting room and he took care of that person and he went straight home, from what we had heard, and this is hearsay of course, but this is what we heard, that he died 20 minutes after he left, after my mother. Actually, Michael Lombardo's wife, Susan, was the receptionist. And she's the one that told my mother at the viewing, when we went to Dr. Lombardo's viewing, she said that the doctor died 20 minutes after you left the office. So my mother was actually one of the last people to see Dr. Lombardo. And Dr. Lombardo, when he knew my grandfather, Harry Black, he played Santa Claus at the North Pole in New York. That was his role. That's what he did until he retired. That was his profession. And when he retired and he came back here, he also was Santa Claus at the the Globe in Scranton and at Fowler, Dick and Walker down in Wilkes-Barre, which is now known as Boscov's. My grandfather was Santa Claus there. And Michael Lombardo's father said, "You know, Kathleen," he told my mother, "you know, Kathleen, I have more pictures in my house of your father," he said, "than my own." Because he said his children on Santa Claus's lap. So he was my grandfather, but he played Santa Claus, and Dr. Lombardo's children, he had pictures of them in his own home. My son wanted to be a fireman because of John Lombardo and Guppy when they were down there and he was hanging around with them. And I was afraid after what happened to John and Lenny and Sulaco that night. I've never forgotten that night. I was afraid to let my son become a fireman. And he asked me, he said that he would keep my son under his wing. Oh my God, what was his name? Joe Rizzo. Joe Rizzo was the one that was, I don't know if he was the chief or what, but he was high up in the fire department. And he came up to me and begged me to let my son become the fireman. So I did. I signed the papers, even though I was scared. There's a lot of history between the Lombardo family and my family. And for him to attack like he's doing in this, and publicly attacking me and lying, because I'm not accusing him of telling the lies and making them up. I'm accusing whoever gave him the misinformation of lying to him. And now he's telling it without asking me my side of the story. And when it came down to the hearings where they kept finding me for different things, if you fix one thing, then they turn around and they find you for something else. That code enforcement officer. I have no use for Harry Smith. And I have plenty of other people that have told me the same thing. He misuses his authority. He intimidates people. And when he was finding me, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen, that's why my sister came up to try to help me pack some things in the home. And then I had to go out and get storage units, because I thought, if I have to get everything out of my home and he makes me get the stuff out of my house, I'm going to have to put them into storage units. So he's cost me money because I've had an expense every month because I needed to hang on to my own personal belongings and everything that was near and dear to me. And then, in addition to that, they had blighted property hearings, and I attended 2 of them. And furthermore, the last time that I had been in the courtroom was February of 2020. I was notified that I had a hearing, and I went to the hearing. And I had 30 days to appeal that. And then the same week or a week later, I'm not sure if it was a week later or that same week, but it was around the same time. I can actually go and get the dates, physically get the dates, but they held a blighted property hearing. And I attended the first one, and then when I attended the second, I told them I did not want to sell my property, and they said, the second blighted property hearing, they said to me that I would have to give them $1,000 up front. And it was non-refundable is what they told me. It would be non-refundable. And I told them, I don't have $1,000 to give to you. And they said, well, if you want to keep that property and prevent it from being blighted, a blighted property, then you have to make the repairs. And they wanted me to get 3 estimates from different people. And they had to be licensed in the city of Pittston to be able to repair property. They needed the estimates, and they needed the $1,000 within 30 days. And the work had to be done by the end of the year. Well, I didn't have the money to do it or to give them the $1,000. But it also happened in February of 2020. And the whole world shut down in March of 2020. So I didn't even have 30 days to be able to go and... I can't even think, because when I start thinking of this, I get so upset talking about all of this. And it all comes all back to my mind. And it's getting me all nervous and upset. And when this comes back, I had 30 days to appeal their decision, and I wasn't able to do it because of that. And that was in February of 2020. I've never heard another word from them until October of 2022, when I was told to go to another hearing. And I did go to that hearing. But at that time, I found out there were 7 hearings that were held without me being present, without notifying me, and then they were charging me criminal charges. So I ended up having to go and get a public defender to fight the criminal charges, which that hearing has still been continued, because one of the lawyers turned it over to another lawyer. And then with continuances, that hearing isn't going to be taking place until this month. And all of a sudden, this year, in June, I get a letter in the mail on June the 10th, which was a Saturday. It was put in my mailbox, telling me that I had to be at a hearing in the big courthouse of Luzerne County on June 14th, which was a Wednesday. So the mail's put in my mailbox on Saturday. You can't get a lawyer on Saturday or Sunday. On Monday, I contacted a lawyer, and his office gave them the information. He did not call me back. So I showed up at the hearing anyway, without a lawyer. And then they're telling me that the Redevelopment Authority owns my property, that they took the property from me. They never notified me. Their lawyer was sitting in there with all this evidence they supposedly had against me, such as they said that there had to be 4 things to prove that they made me aware of it. Number 1, they said they sent me a certified letter. I never received a certified letter. I asked them to show me. Show me where I went to the post office and I signed for a certified letter, because I never received one. And they said, oh, no, the letter was returned to us as undeliverable. Well, how could it be undeliverable when they know where the other magistrate hearings knew where to find me to send letters to? On some of them, not all of them, the ones in the beginning that I received, and I went to every one of those hearings that I received. And the second thing is, they said they published it in the newspaper twice, in the Times Leader. I don't get a paper. Nobody that I know that read a paper even notified me and called me and said, Barbara, did you know your house was in the paper? I wasn't notified of that. That's not fair to somebody that doesn't get a newspaper, to say that we notified you in public. Yeah, they did, to cover their asses. And then the other thing was, they said that they, what else did they have to do? There were 4 things that they had to do. They had to send a registered letter. They had to put it in the paper. Oh, and then they had to post it on the door. Well, since I wasn't down at my home, I had no idea anything was posted on the door. And then I told that to the judge. And when I said to her, first of all, my lawyer didn't contact me, and I'm here because I thought I better show up just in case. And she said that there's 2, and I said, my hearing isn't even until December. And when my hearing is in December, I wasn't doing anything. Everything's been in limbo. I wanted to wait and see how these hearings were going to turn out, because I feel I'm innocent and I'm being attacked. As far as I'm concerned, it's elderly abuse. I'm an older woman, a senior citizen, and not in good health. And they're forcing me to do all these things, but they're not reimbursing me any way that they should. My home was appraised at, for the assessor's office that I'm paying taxes on, for 67 what? Is it 67? Let me look up the amount. 67.1 was it? Okay, I'm paying taxes on $67,100 every single year on that property. And then their appraisers say that my home was only worth $30,000. Who did they hire as an appraiser? Somebody that was a friend of theirs and with a political connection so that they can have those properties? to say my house was only worth $30,000, and then they started deducting the taxes that I didn't pay. My taxes were paid every single year till last year. And with all this going on, I didn't want to put good money into bad. And I was afraid to pay the tax bill if I was going to lose it. So I didn't pay the tax bill for 1 year, and they're deducting it from the 30,000. So they sent me a check in the amount of 23. $23 something. Can find it. It's here. Prove it to you. Here. The check they sent me was for $23,309.15. Do you think that's just compensation to take a home away from me? Not give me another home? In the same quality? They should have given me... They should either... if they want my property that badly, what they should have done was find me another home comparable to what I already have. 5 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, living room, dining room, kitchen. Full basement, full attic. That's what I want. And then I want them to move me, because I can't go up and down steps. So they're going to have to hire movers to come and pack my entire home up. And then they're going to have to hire a moving truck in order to move my things to the new home. Because $23,000 certainly isn't going to do that. I can't go out and buy a home for $23,000. My home is bought and paid for. It's been paid for years. And I've only had to pay the taxes on it. Oh, something that slipped my mind. When we went to the blighted property hearing, that was held in 2020. And in July of 2019, the developer saw my sister and myself and my brother-in-law at the house cleaning it up, packing things up. And he came over and he said to me, Barbara, why don't you want to sell your property? And I said, I don't want to sell my property. But I said, I feel like I'm being forced to by the code enforcement officer. And I said, I don't want to sell this. This is my home. And I told them that my husband actually died trying to save that home. Because when we were in the process of buying that home, my husband lost his job. And when he lost his job, it was 3 days before we were going to closing. So he took on 2 jobs so that he could have the money to be able to pay the closing and to be able to keep the home, because it was the first home we were ever buying and we wanted to have a nice place to raise our children. And I told the man, I think his name was Ken Churchill. And I said to him, I have memories in this home. I said, my children go to school right here. I said, they walk up to the school, up to St. John's, the Evangelist. Seton, I said, that's our church, St. John the Evangelist. All we have to do is walk right up the corner to St. John the Evangelist. Seton Catholic is where my daughter went to school. Over there at St. John the Baptist, my children went there for kindergarten. And then they went up the hill to St. Mary's Assumption for 1st to 8th grade. And then they came down to the high school, to Seton Catholic. It had a lot of memories there. And the bottom line was, I did not want to sell. I felt they're taking my home away from me when I don't want it, and I didn't think there was anything fair about it, and I wanted to fight it. But unfortunately, I've gone to different lawyers to try to get help. And I either can't afford the lawyers because they're so expensive with their retaining fees that I didn't have.
You were looking at, these are the comments.
These are the comments from the website. Thank you, Mayor Lombardo, from Lisa Bryan Smith. Terry Capitano, doing a great job, Mayor Lombardo. Duryea was a great town to grow up in, but now it's like a ghost town. Definitely needs better politicians who knows where and how to get grants. James Zara said, well said. Joyce Mastruzzo said, glad you called it out. You do so much on our city. A lot more than most people realize. Please keep doing what you are doing. Auntie Maranka, best mayor in the world. Ed Philbin, I remember what Main Street looked like when you were elected, and seeing you paint lights posts at night, seeing you paint light posts at night on your own time. Oh, he went and he painted light posts? Keep up the good work. Jolene Champy Lizicki, great job, well said. Mary Jo Frederick, we are so lucky to have you here in our hometown. Keep up the great work. Lenny Basara, Basara? He just gave him clapping hands. Lane Simconis, well said. Lauren Sacco, amen, well said. These are all people responding to what he wrote to Dwayne. Linda Debbie George, he is the best mayor. Teresa Miller, this is the one I went to court with Michelle that time because she was picking on Michelle and hurting Michelle on her way home from school all the time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Hold your hand still.
I know. I can't believe it.
Well said, people. Mayor. You turned Pittston City around. Growing up there were only bars, parking lots, and churches with old buildings throughout Pittston.
Well, what's wrong with churches?
Well, they knocked some of them down.
Why would they do
And not
that?
only that, every corner has a bar on it.
Well, what happened with that lady with the... You said something about your... Michelle?
This is her, Teresa Miller.
Right.
I went to court with her in front of Judge Agello.
Okay.
Because she was picking on Michelle.
Your daughter.
My daughter.
And what'd she pick on?
Teresa Miller, and there was another one, her sister. I forget what her sister's name was. I think they were even twins, but I'm not positive about that. Teresa and something... It was two girls, but they were always in trouble with delinquents type things.
Get out.
Oh, yeah.
And that this is what they wrote in a comment.
That's what she wrote. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my.
Scott Zaleski, bring that eyesore down as soon as possible. That's him.
He doesn't know how to fix it.
Edward Esposito, not only should no one pay for that building, it should be condemned. Joseph Valkos, nicely said, keep up the good work. Billy Goldsworthy, now, my mother dated his father, and when they were in high school, Billy Goldsworthy's father, he was the mayor of West Pittston, Billy.
Right.
He went to school with me. He was in my class.
Right.
But his father cheated by copying my mother's homework. And the teacher realized that it was my mother's work, and she took my mother's A away from her and didn't give it back to her the rest of the year.
No kidding.
And she flunked him, his father.
No kidding. You know the whole history of Pittston almost, don't you?
That's West Pittston.
Oh, West Pittston? Well, I gotta go, sweetheart. Well, we'll pick up on it later.
Okay.
Today's date?
Well, I didn't read his comment.
Oh, okay.
Well, he's the mayor of West Pittston.
Uh-huh.
Well spelled out in detail, Mayor. Keep up the great work, my friend. You and your team are great, are creating a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Bobby Webb.
Oh, my God. That's our,
He's our code enforcement officer. Mayor, you and your staff are doing a great job, and they are much help to me in my position of code enforcement officer in Duryea. I can assure you this person does not speak on behalf of Duryea. Now, he's talking about Dwayne.
There's-
Who, the mayor didn't respond.
Yeah, why doesn't he have the...
Oh, actually, he must have responded because when I read this over, I compared one paper that you printed up for me to another, and when I have it in pencil with the question mark, that means where is it? It's not on this paper, but it was on another one that I was comparing to it.
Yeah. How long were these comments up? When did they start?
March 20th, Dwayne posted it. March 21st, the mayor commented about it. And then March 25th, he sent you the threatening letter into Messenger.
What was the threat? Do you remember it? You have nerve?
You have nerve asking me
No. You have nerve sending me.
a friend request.
Yes, but...
Which you had sent
No.
about 6 months before that.
That's right.
You have to keep telling that.
I know.
You didn't send it then
No.
and ask him to be your friend. You asked him a long time before that,
Yeah.
and he's going back to that comment.
And then he just said, you have nerve sending me a friend request, but it's a lot better than what's coming to you from me. And what else he say?
I don't know.
You better get a good lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Every lawyer we go to, they want the case at first, but they make a couple phone calls, I guess, because they call us back and they say, nope, not interested.
Well, those 3 pages are what Dwayne wrote back to him when
Those are all the comments.
Yeah, no, these are Dwayne's comments. 3 pages here.
Oh.
That he wrote back to the mayor apologizing.
If you read it, you know what you're gonna I think it reads in there somewhere, Mayor, if I have done anything wrong, will you please let me know? Is it in there?
It's in here somewhere.
See if you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's smart. What was Dwayne? He was a 30-year police officer from California, and he knows the law. He's semi-retired. And he's also a FBI profiler. What else, sweetheart? Special agent? Undercover?
No, not undercover. Just
No,
a
special agent. What is it? Organized crime.
Organized crime.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see if he wrote it towards the end here. But see, what Dwayne wrote is there's incorrect things in what Dwayne wrote, and when the mayor responded back, he has incorrect information on there too.
Yeah, see?
Both of them are wrong.
Oh. We gotta get those fixed.
Yep. He called me a frightened and confused citizen. Who was
Are
following.
you frightening and confused, sweetheart?
No, I'm pissed off.
How old are you now?
I'll be 70 in March.
Oh, man. He's picking on an elderly. Senior citizen.
I don't see the comment there where it says, I really appreciate your time and consideration, Mayor, for all that you do every day. God bless you and keep you both and your family safe, healthy, and happy. Thank you for your service and for any assistance that you can provide for Miss Barbara Powell. He spelled my name wrong. There's that Leo Sprazza's comment.
What do you say?
Leo Sperazza, a business owner in the city of Pittston. I am extremely grateful to the mayor and staff for the tremendous improvements made this community, both commercial and residential. Keep up the great work and thank you.
But he doesn't know your side of the story.
No, nobody here does. Nobody knows my
These
side
all
of the
the people
story.
made comments and they only heard one side of the story. What's going on there?
This here, Jackie Borthwick Gavin,
Yeah.
she wrote for I think it was the Sunday Dispatch or the Times Leader. She's one of their writers.
No kidding.
I wish it was possible to clone your character and make it part of the DNA of all elected officials and municipal employees who do not look out for the best interests of the citizens. Kudos to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for sharing your talents in our region.
No kidding.
It is my fervent hope and public appreciates what we have in you, a smart man with a good heart.
Oh, God love her. I know. I gotta go, sweetheart.
Where's my food?
All right, sweetheart.
I am happy to see that you are going after these abusers of the truth and setting the record straight.
Oh, my God.
People like
This
this
should be prosecuted?
prosecuted.
Oh, my God.
Talking about Dwayne
Oh, my God.
and me.
Oh, my God.
You do a great job, Mayor. There will always be someone trying to break you. Keep your head up.
I didn't read these. I didn't really care.
Well, I read every one of them.
No kidding.
Why is your crime rate for rape as high as the national average? Robbie Hughes. Also, your public schools are ranking 2 out of 10, which I have to ask, what's being done for the public educator? Why is a house being demoed and code compliances at the top of your priorities rather than the future of your residents?
Oh, my God. That's wonderful, sweetheart.
But I can't find the spot right now where Dwayne is. I'll highlight it when I find it.
All right, we'll pick up later. This is Jerry Barber signing off.